Japan is one of the most unique countries in the world. Not only is it loved by anime enthusiasts worldwide, but also valued by tourists who visit from all across the globe, seeking tranquility and aesthetically pleasing sights. Japan is full of mesmerizing locations and technologically advanced intriguing spots, and it's also renowned for its peace, hygiene, and hospitality. From free goodies and unusual traditions to unconventional cafes and bizarre landmarks, here are 15 things that can't be seen anywhere but in Japan. Giant Log Festival. The Onbashiri Festival is for you if riding a massive log down a steep mountain sounds like the perfect way to spend a peaceful spring afternoon. The festival, which takes place in Nagano, Japan every 6 years, involves lugging massive logs over challenging terrain entirely by hand with the aid of thickly braided ropes and the occasional help of gravity as the logs tumble down the hill. Each log is eventually placed to support the foundation of several shrine buildings at a nearby shrine, symbolically renewing it. According to reports, the event has gone on without interruption for 1,200 years, and Yamadashi and Sodabiki, the first and second halves of Onbashira, take place in April and May respectively. Yamadashi requires the transportation of logs, each of which can weigh up to 10 tons after they've been cut down. Teams of men pull the logs up the mountains, harnessed by ropes, and then ride them down the opposite side. Like the running of the bulls in Pamplona, where a close call with death is regarded as an act of honor, this event is also quite hazardous. The second activity, Sodabiki, involves the ceremonial raising of the logs while participants once more ride on top of them and sing. Despite the apparent risks, both events frequently result in injuries and occasionally fatalities amongst their participants. This event, however, has a very festive atmosphere with lots of singing, music, and brightly colored costumes. Roller Coaster Bridge. Although most visitors to new countries don't focus on the civil infrastructure, a bridge can occasionally be a sight to behold. Approaching the Ashima Ohashi Bridge may arouse apprehension in drivers. The nearly vertical ascent and descent appear to be of a roller coaster from a distance. Construction, like the Ashima Ohashi Bridge, which connects two cities on opposite sides of Nakumi Lake, began in 1997. Its height can be attributed to the fact that architects ensured that ships could still pass beneath it. With a rigid frame structure, the bridge is about a mile long and one of the tallest in its class in the world at 44 meters. The bridge's actual incline is amplified by the views from either end, earning it the moniker of roller coaster because it looks exceptionally high. The bridge is still quite steep, with a gradient of 5.1% on the side facing Tottori Prefecture and a grade of 6.1% on the other side. Matsu and Sakaminato are two cities connected by the bridge. One of Japan's largest lakes, Lake Nakumi, has brackish water which is saltier than fresh water. Ashima Ohashi's construction would be completed in 2004. The bridge may appear to be rising into the sky while the traffic is descending like roller coaster cars. Renting a car to cross the bridge might be an exciting experience, but it won't quite meet your expectations from an amusement park ride. And so it might be a good idea to look for other things to do if you are nearby for any reason. Snow Canyon. One of Japan's three holy mountains, Mount Tateyama, is accustomed to snowfall. Tateyama Mountain in Japan's Hida Mountains soars up to 9,892 feet. Additionally, it might be amongst Japan's snowiest mountains and the snowiest locations on Earth. The Hida Mountains are a part of the Japanese Alps and are thought to receive up to 125 feet or 1,500 inches of snow on an annual basis in some areas. That much snow, piled continuously, would be almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty. Remarkably, a portion of this magnificent snow country is traversed by a highway. Route 6 begins in Toyama, a coastal city of 420,000 people, and it travels toward Mount Tateyama's western flank before going underground. In Nagano Prefecture, the site of the 1998 Winter Olympics, the route eventually exits on the other side of the Hida Mountains. However, the road runs for about a quarter of a mile along the base of a broad ridgeline just before entering the tunnel and just after passing the isolated and shining-like Tateyama Kokusai Hotel. In Japan, this particular highway section is known as Yuki no Atani, or Snow Canyon. The area is covered in mounds of the solid substance. The road that winds along the mountain is impassable during the winter, but a wondrous wall of solid snow welcomes visitors to the winter wonderland each spring. The wall can be up to 66 feet tall and follows the road's edge for about a quarter of a mile, creating a snow canyon with the pavement at its base. It resembles something out of Game of Thrones, an icy, impenetrable wall that's forged with power beyond human comprehension. However, this wall wasn't built with some icy magic. Every March, bulldozer fleets begin removing the snow from the highway. The enormous machines gradually clear the snow from the path. Teams of workers carrying rotary blowers then begin blasting away the last bits of snow once they've removed about 6 feet of it, exposing the pavement that's buried beneath. A drivable path is ultimately created between two enormous wintry walls. Driving through the cleared mountain pass is one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences that make you feel truly small. You can drive or take a tour bus that will take you along the cleared road, and the walls dwarf the buses, making them appear to be tiny cars. You'll want to get out and join the crowds at the foot of the wall, trying just to click a photo that accurately captures the scale. Tea Tree House. The Japanese have a thing for incredible treetop architecture, and this fantastic Takasugi-on tea house is no exception. The tree-bound tea house stands delicately resting upon the trunks of two timbers, erected on a plot of family land in Chino, Nagano Prefecture. Japanese tea masters have historically exercised complete control over the building of their tea homes. The simplicity of these enclosures was their primary concern, and to maintain simplicity, tea masters preferred not to enlist the aid of architects or skilled craftsmen. Fujimura's tea house, which continues this tradition, is quite small, almost 29 square feet compact, and it can fit 4.5 tatami mats. The architect describes the tiny structure as an extension of one's body, like a piece of clothing. Fujimori, however, is more interested in testing the boundaries and restrictions of a traditional tea house than in the art of making tea. Takasugi-on, which translates to a tea house built too high, was constructed using two chestnut trees that were cut down on a nearby mountain and then transported to the location. Visitors must climb a freestanding ladder to access the tiny house that rests against one of the trees. Visitors are also required to take off their shoes and leave them on the platform halfway up the ladder. The tea house's interior comprises simple materials like plaster and bamboo, and the serene and calm interior makes it easy to forget that you're in a tree house that's high above the ground once you're in it. 3 windows frame views of the surrounding valley and the town where Fujimura grew up. Fujimura's first project was a historical museum, and it's visible through the large picture window. To Fujimura, the tea house is the ultimate personal architecture, as evidenced by his handcrafted creation set in a landscape that he knows all too well. Weird game shows. Around 1950, the first Japanese game show would debut, and by today's standards, it was pretty subdued. It was a simply televised game of charades and went by the name Gesture. There were no wild tricks or lubricated stares to be seen, just a straightforward game of Japanese charades. It would not be for another 36 to 40 years that weird game shows would begin to gain traction. Unlike shows such as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Japanese game shows are questionably very different. Many of these game shows are short excerpts from variety shows that are intended to be outrageous and slightly bizarre. The punishments that a loser must accept after a lost bet or competition are known as batsu games and are frequently featured on variety shows. They occur on an infrequent basis, but they're undoubtedly the videos that are circulated the most on social media. For instance, a clip from the show Slippery Stairs, which is actually titled Nuru Nuru Treasure Hunter, went viral a few years ago after being posted on YouTube by an unidentified user. 5 years later, and it's pretty much present on all top 10 lists and social media platforms. In an effort to reach the treasure at the top, competitors have to climb the slick and slimy stairs. There's nothing to grab onto, no friction, and a high risk of injury. Therefore, the participants put on protective attire, and some people have claimed that the stairs are made of ice, but that's just simply untrue. After conducting some research, we learned that, much to the delight of viewers, the stairs may be coated with propylene glycol, making climbing nearly impossible. Non-melting ice cream. Now, we've all had ideas about ice cream in our heads. Since it's essentially frozen sweetened milk, it must necessarily have specific characteristics. For instance, it melts when you eat it on a hot day. Furthermore, it is very challenging to set on fire. However, the era of traditional frozen treats is over. A group of Japanese researchers have created soft-serve ice cream that won't turn into milk soup even after spending hours in the heat. It's also not due to diglycerides, carrageenan, or polysorbate 80. Simply put, the ice cream's as usual with a minor modification. The story of how we came to have a flammable ice cream is actually quite interesting. It all began with a strawberry mishap. A Japanese chef was tasked with figuring out what to do with strawberry polyphenol, a chemical extracted from strawberries after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami would devastate Japan. It all began when a large number of crooked strawberries produced in an earthquake-affected region went unsold due to their improper shape. The Biotherapy Development Research Center in Japan questioned whether there was a way to use the polyphenol rather than throwing away the entire fruit. They requested that the pastry chef use it to make a dessert, and the experiment went smoothly, but the issue was that it immediately hardened whenever he added the chemical to the cream. And here comes the genius idea. Inventor and Professor Emeritus of Pharmacy, Tomohisa Oto, of Kanazawa University, said in a Japanese newspaper that polyphenol liquid has properties to make it difficult for water and oil to separate, so that a popsicle containing it would be able to retain the original shape of the cream for a longer time than usual and also be hard to melt. Using this technology, Oda and his research group created the popsicles Kanazawa Ice, which is successfully selling in Japan. They maintain their shape despite exposure to conditions that traditional popsicles cannot, such as hot sun and hair dryers. We now have soft-serve ice cream from Kanazawa Ice, which is said to be able to burn without melting and also maintain its shape at temperatures of about 40 degrees Celsius. If you want to get your hands on some of this ice cream that can catch fire, well, if you're not already there, you're going to need to travel to Japan, because for now, Japan has no plans to export it. Kawaii Culture. From anime to video games to fashion trends, the cultural influence of Japan is widely acknowledged. Japanese kawaii culture is one subculture that's gained popularity as it has spread worldwide due to globalization and an increasingly technological world. If you are familiar with Hello Kitty, well, you've already gotten a taste of this culture of Japan, but what exactly is it all about? The culture of cuteness in Japan is known as kawaii. To Japanese people, it means more than just a word. The word itself has evolved to mean someone or something without any negative traits and has taken on the personas of cute, lovable, and adorable. The celebration of all things pretty and the acceptance of fictional characters as the embodiment of goodness are described as being part of this culture. Kawaii is a term that describes things that are young, cute, and childlike, and is based on the endearing physical characteristics of young children and animals. Animals can adopt human characteristics to make them seem more realistic. Like animals, especially cats, humans can adopt their traits, such as tails and ears, to express their emotions better. Because Japanese culture values youth, where men and women seek to imitate youth by adopting the kawaii style of dress and lifestyle, it's very popular in Japan. It might also stand for an escape from the strict social expectations and lengthy workdays that many people in Japan experience. Every Japanese person now lives a lifestyle that incorporates Japanese kawaii culture. In the Taisho era, which spanned from 1912 to 1926, the word kawaii, which denotes being embarrassed, shy, vulnerable, lovable, and small, evolved into kawaii. Although the modern word still has this meaning, it has expanded to include love, care, and protection sentiments. Male and female pop stars wear the clothing and the makeup, and besides that, they use intense eye makeup, large colorful wigs, fake eyelashes, and colored contact lenses, all to try and alter their eyes' size and color. Japanese pop stars not only write in script or anything else that includes tiny drawings in their signatures, but also behave in a cute, kawaii manner. Japanese fashion, which emphasizes cuteness and innocence, is a manifestation of the country's cute culture. The kawaii aesthetic, characterized by frilly, colorful, and brightly colored clothing, and the mannerisms are overly cute and behave adorable, childishly, and to match the fashion. Dressing up and portraying anime and manga characters is incredibly popular in the Japanese popular culture. Free tissues. Do you enjoy using pocket tissues? If you frequently use pocket tissues, some may have already experienced luck while living in Japan because many Japanese people freely distribute them to passers-by. There are a few reasons that you can get a pocket tissue for free, even though it may seem unbelievable. There are papers with advertisements attached, as you can see if you look closely at the pocket tissue. Giving people pocket tissues on the street is done for this reason. The typical stores for which you can find advertisements are newly opened spas, boutiques, restaurants, gambling machine centers, opticians' shops, sports clubs, cramming schools, and easy money loans. People distribute pocket tissues in crowded and high-traffic areas like Tokyo's Shibuya, Shinjuku, and Harajuku, and they're willing to give away free pocket tissues as a marketing ploy to use a pocket tissue because of specific tactics. Although some people distribute advertisements, most recipients throw them away as soon as they receive them. It's easy to understand why, because they don't want paper, and some don't even pay attention to the advertisements. However, if people receive free pocket tissues because they can use it as a necessity for living, everyone should be happy. The lives of people can significantly benefit from a pocket tissue, and if you receive one for free, you may as well bring it everywhere you go. You first see it with advertisements when you need it while you're out and about in cafes, restaurants, parks, or public restrooms, and one pocket tissue takes a while to use up completely, so before you know it, the advertisement's going to be stuck in your head because every time you use that pocket tissue, you'll also see it. Even if you don't initially care what the advertisement on the tissue is, you might just come around. Atoshi Dishes. There are times when your bill at a Japanese restaurant or tavern may be higher than you anticipated. That's because most of them have an Atoshi dish food culture, which is essentially a table charge, but is implemented by serving a small random dish that you never ordered at the beginning of the meal. In some nations, restaurants will provide bread loaves or slices and chips with the meal as a matter of service, but in Japan, you pay, and you don't get more if you ask for it. The charges can range anywhere from 500 to 700 yen, or roughly about $4 to $7. It's important to remember that most of these places won't advertise their table fee. After placing your orders for food and drinks, they simply sneak them in. Depending on the place that you go, each Atoshi is unique, but they're also typically just starters in small portions. Most of the time they are edamame, but occasionally you can find strange Japanese side dishes like their pickled vegetables or even grilled fish and squid guts. It can be a little fun and exciting not to know what you're actually going to get. Automatic taxi doors. Even though Japan's bus, train, and subway systems are all very well developed, taking a taxi is still an option if you need to get somewhere quickly. Have you ever wondered why a Japanese taxi door automatically opens when it stops right beside you and then you can get in? In contrast to other countries where customers are typically responsible for opening doors, Japan does not operate that way. The automatic door function allows passengers to enter the taxi more quickly without using their hands, which is another example of hospitality. Both taxi drivers and passengers find it easier and more convenient, especially if they have a lot of hand luggage. Besides this, caregivers can easily place people with physical disabilities thanks to the automatic door system. To shield the driver from armed robberies and other crimes, in Japanese taxis, it's unusual to see a passenger in the front seat. Most of them typically sit in the back, and only the back seat has the automatic door function, which inadvertently encourages the passenger to take a seat there. Although crime is scarce and Japan is a very safe country, it's still advisable to take extra security measures to protect taxi drivers' lives. The size of Japanese taxis was not as large before the 1950s, and drivers could open the door from their seat. The size of the taxi cars increased dramatically in the 60s, making it nearly impossible for the driver to open the doors on their own. And since Osaka Tanbo Taxi invented the technology that enabled the doors to open and close automatically, most Japanese taxis have been fitted with the system. Free foot baths. Public foot baths are very common in Japan and are typically located close to onsen. They're conveniently situated near hot springs and popular tourist destinations, which allow you to unwind while taking in the scenery with your feet soaking in the water. The term ashiyu, which combines the foot character ashi and the hot water character yu, refers to tiny traditional Japanese pools, which occasionally can be found in public areas. But be cautious though, these are not your average wading pools. Ashiyu are actually hot water onsens for your feet. They're typically located in spa towns close to popular locations like parks and train stations. These foot baths' calming effects are just as well known as that of their larger hot spring competitors. Since an ashiyu session lasts much less time than an onsen session, doctors frequently suggest these traditional pools for patients who can't handle the intense heat of an onsen or who have blood pressure issues. In Japan, the ashiyu have established themselves as a legitimate institution, and it's simple to see why that it's so popular right now. The Japanese are so fond of these foot baths that they've even created a different variation, the teiyu or hand bath, for areas where winters are particularly harsh. Cat cafes. Customers can interact with cats that are allowed to roam freely inside of a cat cafe. Also known as a Nico cafe, cat cafes can be found in most major cities, but they're frequently located on higher floors of multi-story buildings and are not always easy to find. Japan has seen a boom in cat cafes in recent years due to the difficulty of owning a pet in the city due to cramped living spaces, strict rental agreements, and busy lifestyles. These cafes are well liked by both locals and foreign tourists who enjoy the company of a cat. Although they're not typically necessary, making a reservation at the more busier establishments is a great idea. Koi fish. In most cities, you wouldn't anticipate wildlife to flourish in drainage canals. On the other hand, hundreds of koi carp reside in the city of Shimabara on the island of Kyushu in Japan because the city's street gutters are so well kept. The unusual fish habitat resulted from Mount Unzen's volcanic activity, which also caused the earthquake and tsunami of 1792. Although the tragic natural disaster would claim 15,000 lives, it also set off a profusion of freshwater springs, and authorities decided to release these colorful koi into the 100-meter-long waterways in 1978 after discovering that clean water was starting to flow through the city's drainage canals. Karakuri puppets. The Edo period saw the emergence of Karakuri, or clockwork-powered mechanical dolls, in Japan between 1603 and 1868. These mechanical dolls are arguably the most popular kind, tea-serving dolls. When a teacup is placed on the tea saucer, the doll stands at the ready with a tea saucer in each hand, bows its head, and then begins to shuffle forward on its feet, bringing the tea to the customer. Once the teacup is gone, the doll will no longer move. The doll turns around and obediently shuffles back to its original position when the empty teacup is placed on the saucer. The stair-walking doll, another well-known mechanical doll, can come down a set of stairs by performing back handsprings. The doll's center of gravity changes as Mercury rotates within a chamber, and the doll turns over on its end as a result of this. Meanwhile, there is a magician doll that was created to perform a straightforward gimmick. A young child dressed in traditional Chinese attire raises and lowers a box, revealing a surprise inside at each moment. These mechanical dolls are included in the category of Carakuri, which refers to tiny mechanical dolls frequently used at home as a fun activity at celebrations or festivals. Everyone in the Edo society, which includes members of the imperial court to the merchant class and even commoners, have expressed admiration for this doll. Carakuri is known for its expressive faces and effortless, fluid movements. Speaking to the dolls as if they were a child or pets becomes almost natural due to their humanity and calm dedication to service. Whether serving tea or carrying out some other task, they differ significantly from the European automata, which they are frequently compared to because they're not only dolls with moving parts, but are instead built with a Japanese sensibility. Public baths. In Japan, the public bath is known as sento and has a long, illustrious history. Although the practice of public bathing dates back to the 6th century, bathhouses rose to prominence during the Edo period between 1603 and 1868. Each neighborhood at the time had a public bathroom because homes at the time lacked private ones. This shared area has continued to be an important part of the Japanese bathing tradition ever since. Small traditional neighborhood sento with only a few toilets and showers are also common. Others have a contemporary design and are larger. While some facilities feature the artwork of Mount Fuji and old-style Japan, others are more akin to a Western spa. Male and female visitors to sento can use separate bathrooms. There's a dressing room inside where you can leave your clothing and belongings. You can also store your personal items in certain facilities, and while others have coin-operated lockers. The shower area is close to the dressing room, and a stool and bucket are provided in each restroom cubicle. Sit down and use the bucket to drench yourself in hot water while washing, but be careful not to splash anyone else. Sento now offers additional features for you to enjoy alone or with your loved ones: jacuzzis, saunas, steam rooms, massage chairs, and more, and even karaoke may be available.